I used to think that the most disturbing videos I saw on the internet weren't real, until we watched the camera we found in that forest in Oregon last fall. At first, we thought it was just an old wildlife camera forgotten by hunters. But when we opened the footage inside, we realized the camera wasn't just recording animals. And what I saw in the last video will never leave my mind for the rest of my life. Before starting the video, you can support me by subscribing to the channel and liking the video, because the stories told on this channel won't be the kind you'll want to watch alone at night. Now, let's begin. My name is Noah. I am 26 years old, and for about 3 years, I've had a small YouTube channel producing paranormal content. It wasn't a huge channel, but I specifically made videos about abandoned places, forest legends, and missing person cases. Most of the time, even I didn't believe the events were paranormal. What people loved was the atmosphere. A dark building, flashlight beams, and tense music. These always got views on the internet. My closest friend, Lucas, shot the videos with me. We had known each other since college. He was braver. He would enter places I was too afraid to step into without a second thought. He was the one who wanted the channel to grow. In October of last year, we decided to go to a small town around Oregon because there was an old story that had been talked about on the internet for a long time. People claimed they saw strange lights at night in a forest called Black Pine Forest. Some claimed to hear screams. There was even mention of missing campers on a few forums. I thought most of it was internet fabrication, but it was good content for a video. The day we arrived in town, the weather was extremely bad. It was raining constantly and a dense fog had settled over the forest. The motel we stayed at was old. The owner was an elderly man, and the moment he saw the cameras, he understood exactly why we were there. "Go into the forest at night," he said. Lucas started laughing. "Why, is there a bear?" The man didn't answer. He just stared at us for a long time, and at that moment, an inexplicable unease began inside me. The next day, the weather had cleared up a bit, but the fog over the forest still hadn't dispersed. Early in the morning, we prepared our equipment and headed toward Black Pine Forest. Lucas was making jokes the whole way, but for some reason, I couldn't feel comfortable. As we distanced ourselves from the town, the phone signal began to weaken. The pine trees on both sides of the road were so tall that they almost completely blocked out the sky. At the entrance of the forest, there was a rusty sign. Black Pine National Forest, and right below it hung an old warning plaque, "Leave before sunset." Lucas turned on the camera and started filming the sign. "A perfect horror movie opening," he said with a laugh. I tried to laugh too, but the unease inside me was growing. After walking for about 40 minutes, the inside of the forest became completely silent. This was the first thing that caught my attention. There were no bird sounds, not even the sound of insects. There was only the sound of the wind shaking the trees. When Lucas noticed this, he looked at me. "A bit strange, isn't it?" I nodded. Right then, I saw a metallic glint ahead. At first, I thought it was trash, but as we got closer, we realized it was an old wildlife camera attached to a tree. It was covered in mud and moss. It looked like it had been there for a very long time. Lucas detached the camera. "Maybe there's footage inside," he said. I had never heard of the brand. There wasn't even a logo on it, but the red light on the bottom was still blinking. This wasn't normal, because the batteries of such cameras wouldn't last for weeks. Lucas took out the memory card. "We'll look at it at the motel." Just as we were about to turn back, we heard a strange sound from a distance, like the sound of scraping metal. We both went silent. The sound came again a few seconds later. This time it was closer, as if something heavy was being dragged through the trees. Lucas pointed the camera directly in that direction, but nothing could be seen because of the fog. Then the sound abruptly stopped, and the forest became completely silent again. "I don't like this place," I said. Lucas looked serious for the first time. "Yeah, me neither." Since it was starting to get dark, we made our way back to the motel. Neither of us spoke much during the return trip. For some reason, I constantly felt like someone was walking behind us. I even turned around to look a few times, but I couldn't see anyone. When we got back to the motel room, it was about 6:30 p.m. The rain had started again. Lucas opened the laptop and inserted the memory card. There were hundreds of videos inside. Most were shot at night. The first videos were normal. Deer, wolves, rabbits, they looked like standard wildlife recordings. But after the videos recorded about 2 months ago, things began to change. In one video around 3:14 a.m., all the animals suddenly looked in the same direction and ran away. In another video, a tall black silhouette was visible far from the camera. It looked human, but it was very tall, abnormally tall. Lucas paused the video. "What the hell is that?" We tried to zoom in, but the image was extremely grainy. The silhouette was visible for only a few seconds. Then it disappeared among the trees. In the next video, the same figure was closer. In the video after that, even closer. And at that moment, a heavy feeling sank into my stomach, because as the videos progressed, that thing was getting closer to the camera. Lucas started fast-forwarding through the videos, but I told him to stop. Because with each new recording, that figure appeared a bit clearer. It didn't move. It didn't run. It just stood closer to the camera in every video. It was as if it had come to the same spot and waited for days. At one point, the screen went completely dark. Then a new recording started. The time was 2:47 a.m. The camera seemed to have fallen to the ground because the angle was tilted. The mud was visible. Nothing happened for the first few seconds. Then someone walked past the trees. This time it was very close. My breath caught. That thing wasn't human. Its arms were abnormally long. Its walk was strange. It moved without bending its knees. The worst part was its face. Because where a face should have been, there was only darkness. Lucas paused the video. Someone must have done this with a costume, but his voice didn't sound convincing. When the video resumed, the camera suddenly began to move, as if someone had picked it up from the ground. The footage was shaky. Then, for a few seconds, the face of that creature came very close to the screen, and the video cut off. The silence in the room had grown heavy. The rain was beating against the windows. I now felt that this wasn't a fun discovery for a video. "I think we should leave this and go back," I said. Lucas immediately objected. "Noah, this will go viral." "You serious? People will love this." The fact that he was still thinking about YouTube annoyed me, but to be honest, I was curious too. I wanted to find out what that figure was. We opened the last video. The file name was different. Home, MP4. We both looked at each other. "What does this mean?" I asked. Lucas opened the video. The first few seconds were completely dark. Then the image became clear. A room was visible, a small, dark room with a bed. And a few seconds later, I realized that room was my motel room. My blood ran cold. The video was shot with a night vision camera. I was sleeping in the bed. Lucas was sleeping on the armchair. The camera was positioned from the corner of the room, but there was no camera in the room. Nothing happened for about a minute. Then I saw movement on the right side of the screen. Out of the darkness, the tall black figure slowly emerged. That thing was inside the room. It was looking at us. Lucas slammed the laptop shut all of a sudden. We were both breathless. "This is not a joke," he whispered. Right at that moment, a heavy footstep was heard from the floor above our motel room. Thud. Then another one. Thud. But the elderly motel owner had told us that the upper floor was empty. We both froze, staring at the ceiling. The footsteps were slowly moving right above the room. The old wooden ceiling creaked with every step. Lucas whispered, "This is impossible," because the motel owner had truly said that the upper floor had been closed off for years. Then the sound stopped, right above us. Nothing happened for about 10 seconds. Then a faint scraping sound came from the ceiling, as if someone was leaning down toward the floor. And all of a sudden, a long black finger poked through the old vent in the ceiling. It was the most disturbing thing I had ever seen in my life. It looked like a human finger, but it was much longer than normal. Its skin was completely black. It slowly moved downward. Lucas sprang to his feet and pulled back. I couldn't even move. After hanging in the air for a few seconds, the finger was suddenly pulled back. At the same time, the sound of running started on the upper floor. Thud, thud, thud. Something was moving very fast across the room above us. Lucas ran straight for the door. "We're leaving," he shouted. Grabbing the laptop, we rushed out of the room. When we burst into the hallway, the motel was completely silent. The old man at the reception was gone, but the entrance door was wide open. There was a dense fog outside. Just as we were about to run toward the car, Lucas stopped. "Noah," the tone of his voice had changed. As I slowly looked in the direction he was staring, I saw the tall black figure in the second-floor window of the motel. It was looking at us, and at that moment I realized. It had to bend its head so it wouldn't hit the ceiling. For a second my brain refused to accept what I was seeing. The figure stood motionless behind the glass. Its face couldn't be made out. It was like a dark void that absorbed light. Then very slowly it tilted its head to the side, as if it were studying us. Lucas tugged at my arm. To the car. We started running. The rain had picked up again, the gravel slipping beneath our shoes. We threw ourselves into the car and locked the doors. Lucas turned the ignition, but the engine didn't start. He tried again. Only a muffled clicking sound came out. "This has got to be a joke," he muttered. I looked up at the motel window. The figure was no longer there. My heart began to race frantically. "Lucas," I said. He looked up too. We both stared into the rearview mirror at the same time. Something was sitting in the back seat. It was tall, pitch black, and curled up with its knees pressed against the ceiling. It had no face, only darkness. Lucas screamed, opened the door, and threw himself out. I followed right behind him. The rain was stinging my face. When we made it to the other side of the car, the back seat was empty. There was nothing there. But on the inside of the back window, written in the fogged-up glass, 2 words stood, "Come back." At that moment, I truly thought I was losing my mind. Lucas dragged me away from the motel. We were running toward the town. The road was muddy and we were losing our breath, but we didn't stop. After about 10 minutes, the lights of the first houses began to appear. We ran into a small gas station and asked for help. The attendant inside looked surprised to see us. When we mentioned the motel, his expression changed. "No one stays there," he said. We couldn't understand what he meant. Frustrated, Lucas showed him the room key. The old man looked at the key and his face turned stark white. "This motel burned down 12 years ago." His words echoed in my brain. "What?" The man slowly pointed outside. Across from the gas station, an old newspaper clipping was pinned up. The headline read, "Black Pine Motel Fire, Owner and GUSTS Missing." The moment I looked at the photograph, my blood ran cold, because the elderly man we had seen at the reception was standing right in the middle of the photo. And according to the date on the picture, he had died 12 years ago. Lucas started swearing as he stared at the newspaper. I was still locked onto the photo. Because I was certain we had spoken to that man just a few hours ago. He had given us the room key himself. The attendant at the gas station looked terrified. "Did you two really stay there?" he asked. We nodded. After a few seconds of silence, the man spoke in a low voice. "People sometimes say they see that motel, especially on foggy nights, but there is no building there anymore." At that moment, a real dread washed over me, because we hadn't just seen a building there, we had spent the night inside it. Lucas immediately wanted to check the videos we had taken on his phone. He opened the camera. The footage we had shot in the forest was still there, but there was nothing from what we had filmed at the motel. It was as if that part had been completely erased. There was only a single new video. It had no file name, duration, 14 seconds. Lucas opened the video. The footage was in night vision. The camera was stationary. At first, I couldn't understand what we were looking at. Then I realized the image was our motel room. But this time we weren't sleeping. The bed was empty. The camera was facing the door. And a few seconds later, the door slowly opened. The tall black figure walked inside. Then it looked directly into the camera. What I will never forget for the rest of my life was the next few seconds. Because as that creature approached the camera, a human face slowly began to form where its face should have been. My face. The video abruptly ended. Lucas dropped the phone from his hands. Neither of us could speak. The man at the gas station was staring at us in fear. Then he looked out into the darkness outside and said quietly, "You need to get out of here." Right at that moment, the lights of the gas station began to flicker, once, twice, then they went out completely. It became pitch black inside. And from outside, through the rain, we heard those heavy footsteps again. The footsteps were slowly approaching the gas station. Thud, thud, thud. With every step, the windows vibrated slightly. The attendant, in a panic, pulled a shotgun from under the counter. Lucas turned on his phone's flashlight, but the beam showed almost nothing in that dense darkness. Then I saw the movement outside. A tall silhouette stood in the fog in front of the gas station. It was the same thing. This time it was closer. And it wasn't moving, it was just watching us. The attendant said in a trembling voice, "Lock the doors." Lucas immediately locked the front entrance. I was still staring out the window. That creature had no face, but I could still feel it looking at us. Then it suddenly retreated back into the fog. It vanished all at once. Nothing happened for about 5 seconds. And then the sound of breaking glass came from the back of the gas station. The attendant shouted. Together with Lucas, we ran toward the storage room. In the small hallway in the back, I saw something moving in the darkness. It was very tall. It was scraping against the ceiling lights as it advanced. The attendant fired the shotgun. The sound of the blast made my ears ring. But that thing didn't stop. On the contrary, it began to move faster. Lucas pulled me by the arm and headed for the back exit. We all ran out into the rain. We were fleeing toward the woods behind the gas station, but after a few meters, we heard the attendant scream. I turned around. For the rest of my life, I wish I hadn't. Because when the lights of the gas station flickered back on for a split second, I saw that creature clinging to the ceiling, dragging the attendant away. Then the lights went out again. Lucas forcefully dragged me along, leading us toward the road. We ran without stopping for about 20 minutes. Finally, we reached the main highway and a passing truck dropped us off in the town center. The next morning, we went back to the site of the motel with the police, but there was truly nothing there. Only the burnt remains of a foundation. There was no motel. There was no car of ours. There was no trace of the night we had spent inside. The police thought we were in shock. They told us we had most likely gotten lost in the woods and hallucinated, but the story didn't end there. Because about 2 weeks after returning to Seattle, when I opened my laptop, I saw a new folder on my desktop. I hadn't put it there. The folder's name was simply, "Look Outside, My Chest Tightened." I slowly parted the curtain. Across the street, standing in the rain, was the tall black figure. For a second, I couldn't breathe. The figure stood motionless under the streetlight. The rain was pouring down over it, but it didn't move at all. I closed the curtain immediately. My heart was beating so fast that my chest ached. I called Lucas, but the phone went straight to voicemail. Then a notification sound came from my laptop. A new video had opened on the screen. It was a live stream. It showed the hallway of my apartment building. The camera was right across from my door. And a few seconds later, the tall black figure entered the frame. It slowly walked toward my door. I watched the screen, completely frozen. After stopping in front of the door, the figure turned its head toward the camera. Then very slowly, it raised its hand and knocked on the door 3 times. Knock, knock, knock. The exact same sound was heard in real life. At that moment, I experienced the greatest fear of my life. Because that thing was no longer just in the forest. It had come all the way to my home. I didn't dare approach the door. I only looked at the image on the screen. After standing still for a few seconds, the figure took a small object out of its pocket and left it on the floor. Then it walked away into the darkness of the hallway, and suddenly the stream cut off. I sat without moving for about 10 minutes. Finally gathering my courage, I looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty, but in front of the door lay a small black camera, one of the exact same wildlife cameras we had found in the forest. With trembling hands, I brought the camera inside. I thought about smashing it, but curiosity was stronger. I plugged the memory card into the laptop. There was only a single video inside. The video had been recorded today. The footage was from inside my apartment, my bedroom, my living room. It was footage taken while I was going to work. And in the final second of the video, the camera turned toward the bathroom. In the wall mirror, for a brief moment, that tall black figure appeared. But this time, it wasn't alone. Standing behind it was my silhouette. About a year has passed since that incident. I deleted my channel completely. I stopped making paranormal videos. Lucas and I still talk, but he tries to say as little as possible about this matter. Because we both know the same thing, whatever we saw in Black Pine Forest didn't leave us. Sometimes at night, my computer turns on by itself. Sometimes I find videos on my phone that I can't explain. And worst of all, on rainy nights, when I look out the window, I think I see a tall silhouette under the streetlight. Maybe it's not really there. Maybe I've just become paranoid. But I know this much. If you ever find an old, forgotten camera in the woods, never watch the footage inside. Because some things start following you the moment you realize you are being watched.